Welcome everyone to Agencies Talk. I'm sure Michelle gave you a good intro into what we talk about here, but typically we have our top marketing professionals that are associated with the digital marketing community, with Gabe being one of our favorites. So welcome, Gabe.
Hey, hi. That's the first time I heard that. I'm a favorite.
Oh, are you kidding? You're like always here. You always talk of digital marketer. You contribute all the time. No, you're definitely a favorite, and you're recognizable because you're always here. Just like Axel there too. Let's talk about what your hot topic is right now. We have a lot going on. We got GA4 coming up. We got massive changes with SEO. We got, changes with paid media. What are you finding is the big ticket for you right now?
So Michelle mentioned how she wanted to talk about my chocolate foot theory, how I do a follow-up to that. So I'm a big fan of follow-ups. And I don't know if anyone knows, usually when you in sales wise and marketing wise, follow-up is a big thing because you're not going to take a sell on the first time, right? So I like to include humor into my follow-ups often. So if that's something that I could bring up, that's something that's amazing and something that can guarantee you basically an actual response. Because we were talking about it the other day on the MCP, so everyone was interested in that chocolate foot. So, but I didn't. When I initially got the idea of doing stuff like that, I was at a Grant Cardone event, and they were talking about the power of follow-ups. So I decided to start looking into memes and stuff like that, and I was always at it with Ivan, because Ivan was a big meme guy too. So we would always go at it with memes. So I decided, let me start trying to get these memes into follow-ups. So I started doing that. I started creating little videos here and there, and it works like a charm because people either laugh at it and respond to you, or you just have to continue doing it. And it's and I kept doing stuff like that. And the chocolate foot thing was the first time I actually did it for a DYS session. It's they were really into it too, but they were all right, so we're not sure, let's get back to you. And it took a while, and I'm all right, you know what, let me send them a chocolate foot, see if that would work. I'm just trying to get my foot through the door. And I got a response a couple of days later, and they're that was very, very creative. And it's all right, let's meet up this Friday and discuss things. So I felt that was a really good win for me, and I wanted to share it with everyone. So I'm yeah, follow-up works. So I was excited about that. I was excited about other things too. And now it's all right, now that I gained that confidence too, I can start following up with other things and creating these other creative, humorous things to get people rolling. And for the most part, people do respond to them. I have to admit, it works out like a charm.
Well, that makes total sense to me, because I think in the last probably 2 years, since everybody kind of spent an entire year going online, anything online, and especially anything automated, has less appeal than anything custom and anything that took any amount of effort or thought. Because I think we're all aware of the tools that are out there. We're aware of bots and AI generated content, and I think we're starting to get wise to it. So that's genius. Are they custom memes that you make for each individual, or how do you?
I make them for each individual. Let's say, for instance, if someone doesn't respond in a couple of weeks, I would set up a milk carton meme. Now it's a milk carton. You know how back in the days where everyone's missing those missing milk carton things, they put you on a milk carton, he's been missing. So I do that. I'm hey, this person, hey, you've been missing for so long, last seen considering Before the Rise Inc. for your marketing needs. And a lot of times people laugh at that, and they're you know what, let's set something up. So I like doing stuff like that because it shows that you're humorous, and it does have that human connection, which I think we do need in today's society, especially with AI on the rise. I feel that human to human contact that we've been talking about for so long, that's all a part of marketing, still needs to exist. And I think it needs to exist more now than ever, because you never know if you're talking to artificial intelligence or not. And with the advancements of ChatGPT, it's insane how you won't know who's on the other end. So that's why I feel you need to make a human connection on that.
Well, What's funny is that the last M3 Certified Partner meetup, we actually, some of those popular ideas had to do with sending handwritten letters, where it's kind of like, I did real estate back in the early 2000s, and I was like, that's what we did for farming, where you walked up to doors, and for the most part, everybody hated it, and people hated receiving it, and it didn't really have an effect. But I think now that we're so kind of disconnected, we're more online, and we're so inundated with so much information that one little letter will break through, and it'll be like, oh my gosh, this person actually took 2 seconds to think about me. So I'm going to go ahead and pay it back and give you the attention as well. Now, when you do the follow-up, they say, oh, that's funny. Yeah, I'm still around. What's the next step? Do you have a process that you follow up once you get them kind of back on the hook?
Well, once I get them back on the hook, I always ask, I always say, hey, are you interested in a cup of coffee, like virtual coffee? I have my coffee here. Let's do this. And most of the time they'll be like, yeah, okay, let's discuss what we need. So I always ask them, sometimes they'll be like, my biggest concern. And it's like, I always want to dig down into that concern because that's their dominant buying motive. And I realize that a lot of them don't actually want to tell you what their real concern is. So you always hear like, I'm not shopping around right now. Even though they came to you, they are shopping around, but they'll tell you they're not because it's just a reaction. So most of them have a concern that I want to dig down deep inside and figure out what their real concern is so we could handle that. So really, like when I first started, I realized that I was getting it all wrong because they had a concern that I wasn't addressing, and that to me ends up trying to sell them on the wrong product. And when you're doing that, you're not going to close the deal. You're not going to get the deal. So I had to realize that you have to ask them the questions that they don't necessarily want to answer, but they will answer, because that's how you get to the bottom of what their real issues are and what they're really missing and what their dominant buying motive is. So you can move on from there.
Now, do you, during that kind of process, because I know, when I had my agency, it would be like, hey, here's our problem. Our logo is the problem. And you're like, your logo's fine. You're not advertising. That's the problem. Or you're not sending emails and you have a big email list, or you're not doing social and most of your stuff is on social. Do you find that it's helpful to kind of acknowledge their, what they think they need before getting to what they actually need?
100%. The one rule I always have, I learned this from Grant Cardone, basically, is, and it helps out in life too, always agree. The power of agreement really works. And I can't just say, no, that's not your problem, because then they're going to come back at me in a defensive manner. They were like, what do you mean? Yeah. Me. Like, I hear you. I understand your concerns. Now, besides your logo, what else can I help you with? I'm like, if I could fix your logo problem, if I could fix your branding problem, would you do business with me? And they'll be like, yeah, okay. Because at the same time, I know it's not their logo, and they possibly think it's just their logo. But at the same time, if there's another underlying thing and I could deliver what I promised, then they would be most likely willing to do business with me.
No, I like that. Okay, so you acknowledge, okay, yeah, I understand that's a concern. Yes, we're totally going to take care of that. And then you kind of sneak in and by the way, your website load time is 45 seconds and that's not going to work. So we're going to fix that and that'll take care of the logo.
I'd be like, let's just do this first.
But did you try to get them involved? Because I know with the do-it-yourself the discovery session, DYS discovery session, do you find that you could get them on board with a strategy, like a plan behind, or do they say like, no, I said fix the logo, so I want you to fix the logo. I'm not going to talk about anything else until that.
It all depends on the value in advance, because at the same time, if I'm just trying to pitch them my fractional CMO services and all they really asked for is social media, then I noticed that every single time I did DYS, they were just looking around. They couldn't understand like what was going on because they weren't interested in that. And they quickly lost interest, and I quickly fall on that. So I realized that I need to actually ask the questions in like the first meeting, that cup of coffee. I need to ask the right questions so I can understand what I need to present to them. Otherwise, I'm just going to waste their time and mine. And to me, that's a deal that's broken, and it's going to be hard to get it back. So I asked them the right questions, like, all right, what's working for you now? What hasn't been working for you? If I could wave my magic wand and solve one problem for you, what would that problem be? And that's how I get to like their dominant buying motive. Like if it's their website, they would be like, you know what? Our website's not converting right. And be like, all right, let's take a look at it. Let's see what we could fix, what we could optimize. And I always give them something else. I always offer them some package higher so I can make sure that this is what they really want. Like, have you considered email marketing at this point? And they'll be like, no, I'm not interested in email marketing. I care about the social media at this point. And later on, I could go, this is what email would do for you on top of your social media. So it works out. As of late, I've gone higher.
Yeah, because I think there's just a balance between setting those expectations, because a lot of times, we talk about getting the client the quick win. Like, how do you get them to feel good about your service right off the bat so they continue to get to the bigger points where it's like, okay, yeah, I gave you the quick win and you're satisfied with that. However, now we should get involved in the stuff that's actually going to move the needle and the things that are going to get to the next level. Because my experience was that most small business owners are pretty disconnected from what's actually wrong with their business. They think it's over here, and you're like, oh gosh, no, it's not over here, it's over here, when you ignore customer service or some other aspect of operations that they aren't even looking at. Like, it's so off the radar. Or they have something like, oh, my nephew is big on TikTok, and so I should be big on TikTok, even though they do government contracts for city plumbing. And you're like, you know what? I don't think your audience is there. I don't think you need to worry about that. So have you found a good kind of transition? Like, okay, we took care of your issue, and maybe that issue doesn't accomplish anything, or it just makes them happy. Have you found a good way to switch it?
It makes them happy to a point where they're like, all right, this is exactly what I wanted. So at that point, I'm like, hey, so you could increase your return on investment a lot more, a lot better, if you decide to go this route. So if you want, we could discuss this right now and talk about it, so we could discuss how you could grow as a company, because we got this taken care of, but I see a lot more opportunity here. And I always bring up the opportunity. I always bring up the problem it solves, because that's what they want. They want to know that it'll solve the problem. And as long as I solve that problem for them, they're willing to move on the ladder with me and ascend.
That makes sense. So it's essentially kind of like a trial. Like, can you take care of the thing I want? And they're like, yes, I can. Here you go. And now I can take care of the other things that you didn't even know you wanted.
Yeah, you didn't even know existed. So at the same time, while I'm doing that, last week I had a session where I was teaching. Well, I wasn't teaching. I was going over the mission, core values, and vision of a company. And they had their own little set. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. Let's talk about this, though. Let's talk about what your real core values are instead of just putting it on paper. Let's talk about it and see if this is really the route you guys want to take, or if you want to like completely revamp it. And they completely revamped the whole thing. Like, they have a new mission, they actually have a vision, and they enjoy it. They actually loved every single minute of it, that they wanted to go back with it. So they're like, I have a session with them after this one, and they're like really excited to do business with me, and they're really looking forward to it, because they know I could deliver on that value. And now that they know who I am and they know what I could give them, they want to continue with me. So that's like the one thing that I love doing, is I'll give you a free session in the beginning about like the customer avatar, because that's one of my favorite ones. A lot of people don't know that they actually have a target audience. So when you first meet with them, they'll be like, so who's your target audience? Who do you like? Who's your customer? And they'll be like, oh, everyone. I'll be like, okay, this is going to be difficult.
No,
so
it's not.
Like, I have to say, who follows you on Facebook? Who follows you on TikTok? And they'll be like, oh, these bunch of people follow me. Okay, now from these bunch of people, what do you get from them? What do you take from them? Let's build up a customer avatar. What does this person like to read? And then they start following that process, and they'll be like, oh, wow, okay, this is great. So this is the person who I should target. I'm like, yes, that's exactly who. And you could have more than one customer avatar, but for now, this is who you should be targeting. Now, they get more excited about knowing that they have one single thing instead of like trying to target everyone, because in everyone's mind, they just want to go viral.
Oh,
like
yeah.
Everyone talks about going viral and just posting that content that's going to make them millions of dollars, and it doesn't happen that way.
No,
it just doesn't.
Well, that's a difficult conversation, or even concept for people to understand. I always reference one of my clients who had a viral video. It got 1.2 million views. And I was pointed at it and I said, see this video? It got 1.2 million views. Now let's look at his YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel had 50 subscribers, because the only thing he had was the one video that went viral. But what people need to understand about that is people don't subscribe to one video. I watch single videos that are awesome all the time. A lot of times I don't even look at the account, because I'm like, that was neat. maybe if you pop up 6 more times with also some good content I like, then I'll think about subscribing to you. But the process is much more involved than just having one good video. And the good videos come when you do 1,000 videos. Yeah, 10% of 1,000 videos might go viral, or 1% even is a good number. But what you really want is that consistency of content and the consistency of delivery, which you can only produce if you know exactly who your customers are, which you're not going to know unless you do the customer avatar worksheet, which goes way more in detail. So let's go and talk about the customer avatar canvas, because a lot of people, when they hear target market, all they see is demographics. Like, my client is 20 to 40 years old. They make over $100,000 a year. They may live in this area, and that's it. Versus what you teach. So go ahead and describe that. Talk about what kind of digital marketer customer avatar looks like.
So what my customer avatar would look like, I based it off my past self. Because my past self, I was disorganized. I didn't know what I wanted, and I thought I knew it all. So what I would do is I look at my past self and I look at like what books I would read back then. Like, I wouldn't do much reading. I would just be a video gamer the whole time. So it's like, if I were to do something right now, like, I would say, all right, this is who I should be targeting, because this is who like needs it the most. So with me, it was more of, all right, so I based it off my past self, and I also based it off my parents who have the restaurant, who just didn't know why they needed marketing.
Mm.
So in 2017 or 2018, when I sold my restaurant, I realized my biggest issue was that I didn't have the attention I really needed, because I was backing away from it, because at the same time I thought, I don't need it. And I was completely wrong on that. I was completely like discombobulated, and I didn't know what to do about that. So that's when I decided, like, let me focus on like something that really like I should focus on. And that was getting attention. And that's what I think marketing is all about, getting that attention, getting that first initial awareness where that customer can see you and notice who you are, so you could ascend the ladder with them. So I didn't realize that up until I became a digital marketer. So with me, it was basically, okay, so what did I do back then that I shouldn't have done now? I was a 33-year-old who thought he knew it all, who thought he had it all, who just thought he could just run a diner or a business and take it to the next level by just showcasing like his cheesecakes, because that's what I was known for, my cheesecakes. So I thought it'd be so easy. I thought I'd be going into a restaurant, just telling them, all right, you guys handle that. I'll just bake my cheesecakes and we're going to make millions. And I did make a lot of cheesecakes, but at the same time, I didn't make my millions. I was like, oh crap, this isn't what I thought it was.
So for you, it would be the before and after grid would be before Gabe was focused on an individual core competency and was confused about why he wasn't a millionaire. Whereas after, you realize that that's just a single component, and that the marketing is really what matters, and exposure and awareness. And then that's the before and after grid that you get with the canvas. And so you do the same thing with your customers?
Well, I tell them it's all about the after. Like every single customer I come up with, it's all about the after. It's all about that transformation. Regardless if you're selling bagels or if you're selling cheesecakes, it's all about how they feel after they've had that cheesecake. It's all about how they feel after they've had that bagel, because they'll purchase your cheesecake and they'll say, this is the biggest piece of whatever I ever ate. I'm never getting this again. So at the same time, it's like, all right, so you have to showcase that after, the one that they care about the most is what your other customers are going to want. So at the same time, if you're eating a bagel and you show that smile, then people are going to see that, as opposed to just showing a bagel, where content saturation nowadays just shows everyone having that bagel in their hand. So it doesn't matter where you get it from, but it matters who you get it from at the same time. I don't know if that made sense.
Oh yeah. Well, so it's not about the features of any individual product. It's about the feeling that you deliver by, which factors in a whole bunch of different elements: the environment, the person serving the food, how the food looks, and the taste is of course important, and you'll see that sometimes all over the place where, a product doesn't have to be consistent with the marketing that's done for it. I was just on a podcast talking about branding, and we use the example of Snickers, like, oh, you're angry, reach for you're not yourself when you're hungry. Yeah. But really, if you think about that, like, if you're hungry, if your blood sugar is so low that you need to eat something, the last thing you should eat is a Snickers bar, because it's full of calories and it's full of sugar, and that's really going to jack up your, a whole bunch of your chemical processes. But the marketing, if you get the marketing right, you could actually convince everybody that, no, if you're hungry, get a Snickers bar. That's going to be satisfying. So you're able to do basically anything you want. Not that you should, which is the difference. But if you don't have all those branding elements, if you don't have all the product elements and everything else you're delivering, then it's going to not work for the most part. So I love that you're using the customer avatar to kind of figure that kind of stuff out and help people realize it. Because like you said, it's easy to focus on features.
And that's what it is, though. But the whole thing is, if you don't attach benefit to that feature, then in everyone else's mind, the price just went up. They don't see it, a feature, as a feature. They see it as the price going up. So you'd have to mention the benefit to that so they could see the value behind it. People understand why avocado is $2, but if you tell them that the benefit to eating an avocado is endless health, then they're going to want to pay it.
Yeah, or it just gets popular and everybody puts on toast and adds other ingredients to make it a $10 piece of toast. So let's talk about AI. So, we've actually started using it for creating customer avatars now. And even though, those personal touches are necessary, have you started to use AI in regards to automating some aspects of what you do?
I use it on everything. Back 20 years ago, when I was in computer science class, we just started learning the art of artificial intelligence. And I regret this to this day that I didn't get into artificial intelligence back then, because my professor even said that in the next 20 years, artificial intelligence is going to be the art of computer science. It's going to be everything in computer science. And I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I was 20 years old at the time. I'm like, come on, I'm not ready for this. I don't care about that stuff. And I think Gregory over here is actually involved in it more. But at the same time, I'm like, come on. Dr. Schur, his name was, and he kept talking about organic memory and stuff like that. And I'm like, now today, when we learned about ChatGPT, I'm like, I should have done that 20 years ago. So today, it's incredible how crazy and great it is. It's just incredible how it's still advancing too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I was only convinced of AI because I was the same way. Actually, one of the companies that we use often now, Synthesia, it's the artificial avatar that talks. That company I talked to 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago, whenever I still had my agency, I met with them and I was like, oh, this is neat, I guess. I don't think it's that great. But in the last 6 months, it's kind of been adopted by everybody. And it's now... I think if you're not using it, then you're all in pretty quickly. But in that regards, what specific aspects are you using AI for, say, your social media generation or automation of processes, that kind of thing?
For the most part, I use Jasper for copywriting. So everything, if you see me, I have my content at scale I use for all my blog posts. It's great. I love it. So I created a lot more blog posts in the past week than I have my whole entire life, because I wasn't really someone who wanted to sit there, bang on a keyboard and just write a bunch of blogs. I was someone who wanted to actually be seen on camera, but I was too shy to be on camera. So to me, this saves me a lot of time, because now I can create the blog posts, and now I'm focused on getting myself seen. So at the same time, I'm working both aspects of it. I'm creating blog posts, and I'm actually taking that blog post and being all right, how can I approach this on camera? Because now I don't have to sit there and think and create writer's block in my head and be all right, I'm throwing this up there. I have a bunch of half-built bridges in my head that I can't get to. Now it's all right, this takes care of that aspect. Now I could create a script. Now that I created the script, I could actually use it to actually showcase myself and my features and my products. So with me, I think I went 6 months ago, I was agreeing with Julia that AI should be it shouldn't be the focus. It's the human to human element. But at the same time, you could utilize AI to create that human to human aspect of it, because now I actually can see myself on screen, because I created a script utilizing AI within 2 hours instead of sitting there for a month trying to come up with a script.
Oh, I think that's the ideal use of AI because it allows you to do these things that you wouldn't have contributed the time to do before. And I do it all the time just for fun because I made like a board game and I actually, for entertainment purposes, I'll take a story written by like my favorite author, and then I'll take a story concept that I'd like to write but don't have time to, and then I'll just have it written by my favorite author. And now I have a story that I wouldn't have done otherwise. And that goes true for any kind of content, because it's the same way where you overthink the process, you overthink the script, you overthink the article, and then you end up with a blog that only has 3 draft articles in the back end of your website that you never publish.
Yeah, I usually end up tossing them. I'm like, oh man, that was a waste of time for me. That was a waste of time for everyone. Like, and to me, it wasn't like I wasted time just doing that because I couldn't come up with a concept, or I couldn't come up with something that was like mind blowing.
Yeah,
And
well, or just thinking of just the basics. You're like, oh, I have this idea and I have this point I want to make, but I don't have time to go on Google and do 10 searches that will lead to me sounding like everybody else, because the person who writes the top 10 posts on the first page is the one that everybody references, and it starts to sound redundant. So I think that's an excellent use of AI. Now, for you're actually serving your clients, do you do the same thing with them where you produce their content?
I produce their content. I produce their blog posts now because it's a lot easier for me to actually just write a blog post about like why family-owned businesses are still the thing to get involved with. Because now it's like I just write a couple of keywords, it comes up with the thing, I proofread it, I actually optimize it for SEO, and I just link it to the webpage. So within 3 hours, I have a blog post up for them when they're like, oh, wow, okay, this is great. So with me, on every single one, I actually use that as like a feature and a benefit to doing business with me.
Do they mind that you're using AI to generate the content, or do they notice?
No, they don't notice. They don't notice, and I don't think they actually mind, because at the same time, it's getting the content out there that they care about. It's getting it up there, it's getting it out there, and it's getting it known. And at the same time, if I actually present to them that, hey, this AI detector actually picked it up as human made, then they'll be like, okay with it. AI picks it up as human. They'll be like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. No, that's fantastic. Now, have you seen the same type of SEO results or traffic from the AI? Not because it's not completely AI read, you're proofreading, you're optimizing it. Have you seen any effect or difference between an AI generated versus yours?
Not really. I think it has a similar effect to it being either human or AI, but I haven't really like explored on blog posts enough to actually see if that does make a big difference, because I did such a small amount of research that to me, it just seems that it's flowing naturally. And I think Tomas was telling me the other day, not the other day, a couple of months ago, that when he first started with Content at Scale, it was really good for his SEO, even better than human.
Well, I think that's where, I think that's where everything's going. Now, the style is something a little different, because I think before it was kind of like any good article or any well-written article, people would be like, oh, that's great for the blog. Like, that's fine. But what I'm finding now is that if you don't stylize it, then people could generate themselves whatever they want. Right.
I agree 100% on that. Like everyone would be like, oh, I'm just using ChatGPT for everything. And it's like, I get it. And I took an AI persona with Jeff Hunter last night, and he was talking about how you need to build a persona behind it, because not everyone could do it. Everyone thinks they could do it, but not everyone could do it. So he went into it all, and it made real sense how you need to build that persona around your artificial intelligence. Otherwise, they're just going to see it as non-stylized and dull.
Yeah, well, and it's not going to add to the brand. But, I hate to say it, but many SEO companies have gone away with producing subpar content that were written by VAs on the other side of the planet. and clients were okay with that now, or were okay with that then. I don't, do you sell SEO services too, or is that?
So when I started back in 2002 doing it, I was doing basically the old school style SEO with just keywords, typing in massive keywords on the keyboard, putting it onto your web page and being like, this is how it has to be. But SEO is involved in such a huge way that I totally got lost in it. And I had to bring myself back around to actually understanding what SEO is. So it took me a while to catch up with like new concepts of SEOs, like on-page SEO, technical SEO. But that's something that I think everyone needed, because they all wanted to be on the first page of Google. Now I think it's changing where it's like, even if you're on the first page of Google, you're probably on the bottom, and people don't like really scrolling all the way to the bottom. So it's getting really harder to actually produce the SEO content that they want. So I don't sell my services based off of SEO. And if they did want SEO, I'd be like, all right, I could offer that to you, but it's not going to be what you think it is.
No, that's good. Well, and for us, even for, we're redeveloping the SEO certification right now, and it's kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen with SEO in terms of is Google going to keep sending people traffic if they're generating answers themselves, which they've recently just demonstrated. And if that happens, how are people going to find you?
Well, that's the whole thing, right? How are they going to find you if they can't, like, you're all the way on second page?
Yeah. So, well, let's take that out, say that SEO is not a thing anymore. What are you recommending to your clients in terms of getting the awareness without having to pay for ads all the time?
Well, I'm taking your advice on this. And now ever since I learned about this thing, it's where I tell everyone that the future is in community management. If you build a community and create such a community where everyone is involved in your community and you include them in on it, and like either on Slack, on Telegraph, or Discord, if you could build a community, then you have them for life. Then you have them and you can retarget them that way, and you can discuss different things that way, and they become part of your culture. They become part of you. So that's exactly where I think everyone's going to go to, that you need, as a culture, as like a brand, you need to build a community around it, because SEO is not going to be the answer in the future.
No, I like you said, I completely agree. I call it privatizing your following, because if you can't depend on Google or SEO or Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or any of these big platforms that everybody kind of gets their traffic from, how do you get traffic? And at the end of the day, you have to do what really big players have always done. If you look at Nike has a fanatical following. It's how they built the whole company and focused on individual sports to then silo their community into even smaller elements, which they could then target content and their advertising on individual groups that are partitioned, but still the same Nike community. So I think that's what AI is allowing people to do, is not just, also do a lot of content, but now you could build that private community of content and followers who will then come to you all the time when they need answers on the thing you're the authority in. So in that regards, how do you build authority for smaller brands, say a landscaper or something that's not traditionally known to be, a community of people?
So I go over a blueprint with them where I tell them, all right, so you have your core values, you have your mission and your vision. Now it's time to actually build a character diamond around that so people can understand who you are and your voice. So I always go around the character diamond. And I always say you need that flaw so people connect with you. So you need that human element inside your brand, even though you don't want that brand to be you necessarily. And I tell them every single time that the more valuable you are to your brand, the less valuable your brand is. So we have to get it in a way where you're just that fictional character in your brand, that you could utilize your voice, but you don't necessarily have to be present. Otherwise, your landscaping company, if like you expand and people don't see John, the one cutting the grass, then they're going to be like, all right, I'm going to go with someone else because John's not here. So with that, I would be like, you have to be authoritative. You have to understand that you be decisive, I think, is what I tell everyone. Be decisive. Don't say, well, you know what, I think this is the best route. No, you have to be decisive. You have to say, this is exactly how it is. You have to cut the grass this way in order for it to grow better. Otherwise, if you, I don't know, it depends on the rain and stuff like that, people aren't going to take you seriously, and you're not going to build a brand around indecisiveness. You're not going to build a brand not knowing, like, are eggs the best or my bacon the best? You have to tell them, you have to try our bacon. It's the best. I get it locally sourced. It's great. Otherwise, people aren't going to believe you or aren't going to trust you.
Oh yeah. Well, I think if you haven't developed a system around the thing that you sell, then people don't believe your authority in it. I love your example of a landscape company. Like, we cut the grass at 45 degrees and we alternate the path so that you have a nice aesthetically pleasing whatever, and it consumes fertilizer better and blah, 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 blah. And now, so even if everybody does this, and you always have that example of like, was it the Mad Men example for the cigarette company and roasted, then we roast our tobacco, and it's like everybody roasts their tobacco. Why is that special? It's special because you talked about it. It's special because you decided to make it special. And what I think a lot of small businesses don't realize is you could do that with literally anything because your competitors aren't. So even if it is a standard practice to cut the grass at 45 degrees, the fact that you mentioned it and turned it into a thing that you're delivering is now valuable just because you did that.
Because people pick up on that and they see that and they're like, all right, they know what they're talking about. So I feel like I never, even if I think I'm wrong, or if I think, not that I'm wrong, or I think a different way, I always stick with one decision and stay with it. And I'm like, okay, I'm testing this out. If it works out, great, we did it. But I am smart enough to know that I could be wrong. And I'm smart enough to know that if I'm wrong, I'm changing it right away.
No,
So
love that.
I realize that, like, okay, everything is a test. I'm testing everything out, but if this works, then I'm right. And that's okay. But if I'm wrong, I will realize that we're wrong and we need to take it another step. So I always do something like that.
No, that totally makes sense. And well, and I think just helping people discover what makes them special is another core aspect of being a marketer. Because a lot of people, well, and that's why you don't have people just hire marketers all the time. Like, oh, I need marketing, so I'm going to hire a marketing manager. I'm going to go through this process. No, they rely on agencies who are outside parties to come in, look at their company and say, hey, here's what's going on. Now, let's just talk about that. Do you see, any kind of trends towards people hiring more agencies specifically for that element versus hiring marketers?
I see the benefit more of hiring an agency than a specific marketer, but a lot of them want that control over the marketer. So I do see, like, I had to convince one of my friends to go with a marketing agency instead of a marketer inside their brand, because they always wanted someone inside so they can control it. And I'm like, well, at the same time, if you have someone inside controlling it, then you're not seeing the bigger picture there because you're in control of it. So you need to like let go of that control and let someone else from the outside come in so they could pick apart your marketing strategy and let you know exactly how it is. Because with me, I'm not trying to please you. I'm trying to make you money. But someone who's working for you is afraid you're going to fire them right away if they make the wrong decision. So with me, it's a lot easier. It's a lot better to go with an agency outside to actually pick apart everything you're doing and like see the opportunity where you need to grow, as opposed to someone who's just going to yes you to death. And for the
No,
most
that
makes sense.
well, no, I think that makes a ton of sense. And it's why, agencies exist in the first place, because it is hard to see what's going on from the inside, until you have hopefully a third party who has experience with the industry or with similar businesses and say, hey, here's how it goes over here. But that's not even necessarily true either, because if you employ any, specific element of marketing that really works in an industry and nobody does it in your industry, there's a good chance you can employ those same methods and then you'll be unique and, special within your space. So I love agencies. So I'm always going to advocate for that. Now, I have spoken the whole time, but I did leave 15 minutes, Michelle. So I'm doing good this time instead of 5 minutes. Does anybody have any questions for Gabe? Let's see, you could do the chats, or we have the Q&A, or there's not that many people. You could just come off mute if you want, ask your question. Anything about marketing, running an agency, building a brand. Otherwise, I'm going to keep going. No? Axel? There has to be questions from Axel. Where's Axel?
Wow.
Yeah. Okay, let's keep going then. So another hot topic that I think everybody needs to be aware of, and if you're not currently working on it, you need to get on your game because it's going to be a big impact, is the release of GA4 coming on July 1st, where Universal Analytics, what everybody has installed on their website, is going to shut down. And you're not going to be able to access your data anymore. And the data won't necessarily be transferable to the new system from the same brand because it's a different language that it speaks. How are you telling people? Are you preparing your clients for it, or what do you think about the situation?
So to me, it's like another Y2K type of situation where
That's
it's like,
exactly what I say.
and I'm like, yesterday, I guess Google sent out another email, the same email they keep sending everyone, which is like, prepare your business for Google Analytics 4. And every single time that happens, I get that email forwarded to me from everyone. So it's like, don't worry, we have it under control. even though I'm not 100% sure if Google has it under control, but don't
Oh, yeah.
worry, it's something that will get taken care of. Regardless if Google has it under control or not, it's something that will get taken care of. So I just have to reassure them that it's nothing big. I mean, technically, Google has it under control, but it's just something that we'll have to react to once it's done. Because I'm not exactly sure on how like Google's really gonna like fix things. And I don't think
Yeah.
anyone, Google's been a mess.
Or why they're doing that, because they don't have to. It's that was always, well, that was always my issue, is that if you have the dominant player in the market, the people who are generating 70% of all searches online, and they say like, we got to break our own system for reasons that I can't understand. But like you said, it's not a big issue as long as you figure it out. Now, are you proactively going to your clients and saying like, hey, we're taking care of this issue for you, don't worry about it?
I have been, but they're always wondering after that email comes along that if it's been really like, because Google sends that email out anyway, and it says be prepared. So it makes it seem like we're not prepared, that Google just an automated email to everyone. So it's just one of those like, okay, what do we do here? Did you take care of this, or is Google just lying to us? And I'm like, well, I don't even think Google took care of it, but yes, we are on top of it. We understand that it has to be changed by July 1st. So we are sticking to that, and we are on top of it, but I don't think you have anything to worry about, because you still have us working on it. And if July 1st happens and it's a big mess of things, we'll clean it up for you.
No,
So
that's good.
you should worry about, focus on your business, and let's take care of the analytics ourselves.
Well, I will say though, if you name that process, they'll feel even better about it. Because if you said like, oh yeah, we have the GA4 transition plan, and that involves these 10 steps, which we already took care of, so you're good, and we have it figured out. Versus just saying we have it figured out, and helping that they trust you, or you have that kind of relationship where they're going to listen, versus go somewhere else. Because what's going to happen is you're going to have a flood of advertisements of people saying your GA4 is not ready, you're going to lose your data, and then you'll have to deal with the backlash of the customers being like, well, this guy I saw on YouTube said that everything's going to break.
But Google, like everyone calls up like on restaurants, like every single day, I would say about 3 times a day, you'd get a phone call to update your Google listings, press 1.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It's always going to happen. It's not something that you can like, yeah, other companies are going to swoop in and be like, to update your Google Analytics 4, call us. So that's something that I can't avoid, but I can do something like that, like you said just now. That would probably put them at ease, but at the same time, a lot of them don't feel at ease until like it happens and they see that it's nothing.
I would still be proactive. Actually, I talked to somebody yesterday who had a firm reach out to them and say, hey, we'll fix this for $1,500. And so there's already people, the sharks are in the water, like, hey, there's some suckers out there who don't know that it's like a 30-minute issue as long as you address it.
Usually I get that email too. Like, hey, should I go with this guy? I'm like, no, unless you want to lose 50%.
Yeah, you get people who get the renew your domain with some random company, and they're like, dude, is my domain not renewed? And you're like, of course your domain is, you've had it for like 20 years, it's not going anywhere. But I mean, that's I do think as a marketer, it's our job to take care of our clients, be like, hey, here's what's going to happen. You're going to have a bunch of people reach out to you. They're going to have some kind of package telling you that you're going to lose all your data and your website's going to break. Don't listen to them. We did my GA4 prep plan, and now you're good to go. So don't stress. We got covered.
Not an email letting them all know that GA4 is like, you're going to get these emails. So you don't have to, we already taken care of it and we already have a plan, but I didn't actually go into the specifics of the plan. So maybe I should send out an email saying, all right, this is how we're going to deal with it.
Yeah, and even if it's just standard, because it's not, it's not super complicated, but it is scary because, like you said, it's like Y2K, where it's like, well, everything might fall apart. We don't know. Be ready. Go buy some, refried beans or something.
Like back in the day, how like it affected everyone, like Y2K, it was all over the news. They even made a movie on it, like planes falling from the sky because of it.
The numbers are all wrong. No, that's it's good. And I think like it's an opportunity. You could actually establish your authority and establish your value to all your customers just by being on top of it. And same thing with AI. You could say like, hey, well, AI, blah, blah, blah. We use an AI detector for all your content to make sure that even if it is human written, it's not perceived as AI. We got it covered. And I think it's actually a good tool you could use to start a conversation with your customers, maybe upsell them on some other elements because you're taking care of this. So, I did notice that it's kind of light. Your blog is kind of light. You could use some more content. And as long as we're doing all this work on GA4, you might as well upgrade your stuff, right?
It works out that way, I guess.
You don't have to. I'm just making stuff up.
I don't know. I mean, it works out that way. I was thinking of something clever to say, but I got nothing.
Oh, that's all right. All right. Well, this has been fantastic, Gabe. I think, like I said, you're one of my favorite community members because you implement the stuff that we teach well. But it's not like you just do exactly what we say. You customize it for your approach, your strengths, and your customers. And I think you're very good at that.
I also feel like I don't give enough of what I can or what I want because I feel like I'm still like, you have greats like Adrian over here. Like he's taught me so much and I don't even think he realizes how much he's actually taught me. So I feel like, I have to give a lot back to this community, and you, Michelle, everyone I've ever met inside this community has been nothing but great. And like, I feel like you guys like deserve all the credit. Because a year ago, I was just like, I wouldn't be doing this if this was a year ago. So I had to say, hey, I had to message Michelle and be like, I think I'm ready for this. Can I get on here? She's like, of course you can. Let's do this. So I think like I owe a lot to you guys. And I think without Digital Marketer, I think I wouldn't be here right now, like this excited about my like future. So I have a lot to thank you guys for.
Oh, that's fantastic. We love having you. And, at the end of the day, like Digital Marketer, we're an education company. Like we could only be as good as the contributors that we get involved. So people like you, we have to, because we use it ourselves, but we can't tell if it works until you get experts who have agencies who are helping, businesses grow. And really that's where a lot of our content comes from. So, and our goal at the end of the day is to turn you into a faculty member for teaching the community. So we wish you all the success, and we're very happy to have you, and people like you.
Thank y'all.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much, Gabe. If there are no questions, we'll go ahead and wrap this up early. Who do we have next week, Michelle?
Next week, we have Wally Anwar, who's one of our Pakistan certified partners, who does a lot.
He does. He talks a lot. We shouldn't have a problem there. Well, thank you so much, Gabe. I really appreciate your time. If anybody wants to learn more about you and what you do, where should they go?
BeforeTheRiseInc.com, or you can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on Instagram. With Watch Me Rise 316 on Instagram, LinkedIn is the same, and Facebook the same. So you can find me on all three, and BeforeTheRiseInc.com.
Awesome. I love that name too. That's super cool. And it really targets what you do and what you've been able to accomplish. So congrats. Thanks for being part of the community, and we appreciate your time here.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, y'all. We'll see you next week.